Welcome back to the quarterly call. All content is for informational purposes and is not investment advice. Please consult with an investment professional.
Okay, sounds good.
So today we're diving into NVIDIA
Yeah.
and trying to understand their path to future success.
Cool.
We'll be looking at insights from their CFO, Colette Kress,
Okay.
from her recent presentation at the UBS Global Technology and AI Conference.
Sounds fascinating.
And let me tell you, she painted a pretty compelling picture of where they're headed.
NVIDIA is, they're the dominant force in AI chips, right?
Yeah, I think most of our listeners are probably familiar with them.
But it seems like their growth has been on another level lately.
It really has.
Where do we even begin with all this?
Well, the numbers that really jumped out at me were around their cash flow.
Cash flow, huh?
$56 billion
Wow.
in free cash flow over just the last 4 quarters.
That's a crazy amount of money.
Some analysts are even predicting they could hit $120 billion in 2025.
120 billion.
It's enough to make your head spin.
It really is. But it's not just about the sheer amount, though, right?
Yeah.
It's what that financial strength allows them to do.
Right.
Like, with that kind of cash, think about it. They can invest heavily in research and development, snap up promising startups,
Yeah.
maybe even branch out into entirely new business models.
It's like having a superpower in this world where innovation is king.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a war chest to kind of outmaneuver the competition.
Right.
But what's interesting...
What's interesting is they're not just hoarding all this cash.
Right. They're not just sitting on a pile of gold like a dragon.
Exactly. Exactly.
What are they doing with all this cash?
So they have a plan for it.
They do. Okay.
And they're really focusing on fueling growth and innovation.
Okay, so how are they doing that?
Pouring money into R&D,
Makes sense.
strategically acquiring companies that align with their vision,
Smart.
and exploring those new business models we talked about.
Right.
And of course,
Yeah.
not forgetting their investors, share buybacks and dividends.
It's a pretty savvy, multi-pronged approach.
It really is. But they also have their upcoming Blackwell architecture.
Oh, yeah. I've heard a lot of buzz about this Blackwell architecture.
Right.
Can we break down what makes it so special?
Yeah, it's not just another chip. Think of it as a data center in a box,
Okay.
designed with unprecedented flexibility.
Unprecedented, huh?
Customers can choose from various configurations, including liquid cooling.
Liquid cooling. Wow, that's cutting edge.
Yeah, it's pretty important for keeping those powerful chips from overheating.
Definitely.
They also have the option of using ARM or x86 CPUs.
So they're really giving customers choices there,
Okay.
along with different networking choices like InfiniBand and Ethernet.
Okay, so a lot of flexibility in terms of how they can configure this.
Right. So this level of customization is unheard of.
So what does that mean for their customers?
It means they can tailor solutions to fit almost any customer's needs. That makes sense. But with this super flexible and powerful architecture, and with demand as high as it is, can they actually deliver?
Right, that's a great question.
We've all seen the supply chain issues causing headaches across industries.
That's a valid concern, and Colette actually acknowledged that.
Oh, she did.
They're anticipating supply constraints for Blackwell, likely well into the next fiscal year.
So even with all their resources, they're still facing challenges.
The demand is just off the charts.
Oh, wow.
And they are working closely with their suppliers
Hi.
to ramp up production as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But it's clear that they're facing some serious challenges in meeting this
Yeah.
unprecedented demand.
Unprecedented, yeah.
Yeah.
But here's another thought. With technology changing so fast, is there a risk that customers might hold off on buying,
Oh, that's an interesting point.
thinking that something even better might be just around the corner?
Right, it's a classic dilemma.
Yeah,
But Colette addressed this.
she did.
Yeah, explaining that most customers get that data center planning is a long game.
Oh,
They
yeah.
need computing power now,
Right, not a year from now.
not a year from now.
So they need solutions today.
Right. But their existing Hopper architecture is still a beast
It is, yeah.
for those who might want to wait and see what happens with Blackwell.
So it's all about giving customers options.
Exactly.
And showing them a clear path for the future.
That makes sense.
Makes sense.
But we've been talking a lot about hardware.
We have.
What about their software business?
Oh, yeah, the software side of things.
They're nearing a $2 billion annual run rate.
2 billion. That's not chump change.
No, it's not.
What's the story there?
So that's a crucial piece of the puzzle.
It is.
Their software platform is quickly becoming essential for companies adopting AI.
Okay.
They're not just offering hardware, they're building an entire ecosystem.
An ecosystem, okay.
This platform has applications, libraries,
Okay.
and tools specifically designed for different industries and tasks.
So it's tailored to specific needs.
Interesting.
Plus, they offer support and services to help customers integrate AI smoothly.
So it's a whole package.
It's about making the entire AI adoption process easier and more efficient.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Makes sense.
But then Colette brought up this whole concept of sovereign AI,
Oh yeah, sovereign AI.
which sounds pretty intriguing.
It does.
What's that all about?
It's basically about nations around the world
Okay.
recognizing that AI is a strategic asset
Okay.
and investing in building their own AI infrastructure and foundational models.
So they want to control their own AI destiny.
Exactly.
So what does that look like in the real world?
So we're seeing a surge in large-scale AI projects funded by governments, national research initiatives, support for homegrown cloud computing providers,
Makes sense.
and a push to create AI models that are trained on their own data in their own languages
Interesting.
and reflect their unique cultural contexts. So they're really trying to make AI their own.
Yeah.
And where is this happening?
Everywhere from Japan and India to Europe and across the Asia-Pacific region.
Wow, so it's a truly global phenomenon.
It is. It's a huge shift in the landscape.
Huge shift.
Yeah. So if we bring it all back to NVIDIA,
Okay.
what does this mean for their future?
Yeah, especially as they try to maintain their leadership position in AI.
Right. It's a fascinating situation for them.
It is.
NVIDIA is in a strong position both financially
Right.
and in terms of the technology they're developing.
Mm-hmm.
They're investing heavily in R&D.
Mm-hmm.
They're adapting to new demands like this sovereign AI
Yeah.
trend.
Right.
And they have this comprehensive approach
Yeah.
that combines hardware,
Yeah.
software, and services.
It seems like they're well positioned to continue shaping the future of AI.
They do. They seem to be building a really strong foundation.
Exactly. They're anticipating what their customers will need down the line,
Yeah.
whether it's offering those highly configurable options with Blackwell.
Right.
Or supporting the rise of these national AI ecosystems.
It's their deep understanding of the AI landscape,
Uh-huh.
coupled with their commitment to pushing the boundaries of what's possible,
It's that combination.
that makes them such a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, they're a company to watch, that's for sure. They're not just riding the AI wave, they're actively shaping it.
Absolutely. But before we get too carried away looking ahead, let's rewind for a second and highlight those key points we've uncovered from Colette's presentation.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
What have we learned so far?
Let's see, to recap, NVIDIA is swimming in cash, giving them the resources to invest in R&D,
Right.
strategic acquisitions, new business models.
Right.
Their upcoming Blackwell architecture is generating a ton of excitement due to its flexibility, customization options for customers.
Yeah.
And while they're facing supply constraints for Blackwell,
Right.
they are actively working to address them. We also touched on their booming software business, which underscores the importance of their platform for broader AI adoption.
Right.
And of course, we can't forget the rise of sovereign AI,
Right.
which is creating a whole new wave of demand as countries pour resources into building their own AI capabilities.
So many good stuff here. But what stands out to you as the most significant insight?
You know, what strikes me is how NVIDIA is really strategically positioning themselves for the long game in AI.
Okay.
They're not just focused on meeting the immediate demand for their products, they're looking ahead,
Okay.
anticipating future trends like this sovereign AI movement and building the infrastructure and partnerships to support that future.
That's smart.
This kind of forward-thinking approach is what sets them apart.
Yeah, that's a great observation. And it leads us perfectly into a final thought for our listeners today.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So if we consider NVIDIA's strategic positioning and this global rise of sovereign AI,
Yeah.
it begs the question, how will these independent AI ecosystems, driven by different nations and cultural contexts, ultimately interact and collaborate?
Oh, that's interesting.
Will we see a fragmented AI landscape or a more interconnected global AI network? It's a question worth pondering.
That's a really thought-provoking question, and one that I don't think anyone has a definitive answer to yet.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something to watch closely.
Absolutely. It feels like we're just beginning to understand the full implications of AI on a global scale.
Precisely. And that brings us to another crucial point from Colette's talk. the evolving nature of AI models themselves.
You mean how the focus is shifting from just training massive models to also refining the inference process?
Yes, you see, the initial hype around generative AI was largely focused on building these enormous language models.
Right.
But as we move forward, the emphasis is increasingly on how to use those models effectively
Right.
for real-world applications.
So it's not just about size anymore. It's about making these models smarter and more efficient in how they process information.
Exactly. And that requires a different kind of focus, both in terms of the hardware and software involved.
Yeah.
Colette highlighted how NVIDIA is already addressing this shift with their Blackwell architecture,
Yeah.
particularly with a configuration called the GB200 NVL.
Didn't she mention that this configuration offers a major performance boost for inference tasks?
You're absolutely right. She said it offers a 30x improvement in inferencing performance
Wow.
compared to their current generation.
30x.
That's huge.
You're telling me they boosted performance by that much? That's got to be a game changer for anyone working with these complex AI models.
It is, and it really shows how NVIDIA is anticipating the needs of their customers as they move towards more sophisticated AI applications.
Right.
But it's not just about speed. As AI models become more complex, they also need to be able to handle more intricate reasoning tasks.
Like understanding context and making more nuanced decisions.
Precisely. And that requires a level of computational power that can deliver results with minimal latency,
Okay.
which is exactly what NVIDIA is aiming for with their Blackwell architecture.
So it all ties back to creating a more seamless and efficient AI experience.
Absolutely. And it highlights a crucial point that Colette emphasized, the importance of TCO.
TCO, total cost of ownership.
Exactly.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new technology. But ultimately, businesses need to consider the overall cost and value they're getting.
Right. And this is where NVIDIA's approach is particularly insightful.
Okay.
They're not just selling chips or software. They're offering a comprehensive solution that takes into account the entire AI lifecycle.
Can you elaborate on that a bit more? I'm curious to hear how they're factoring in that total cost of ownership.
Sure. When NVIDIA determines pricing, they consider factors beyond just the raw performance of their hardware. They factor in the value their software and support services bring to the table, helping customers optimize their AI infrastructure and achieve the lowest possible TCO.
So it's a more holistic approach to AI adoption.
Exactly. It's about understanding the customer's needs and providing a solution that addresses not just the immediate technical requirements, but also the long-term financial considerations.
That's a smart strategy, especially in a field as complex and rapidly evolving as AI.
And it speaks to NVIDIA's deep understanding of the market.
Right.
They're not just reacting to current trends. They're anticipating future needs and building solutions that will help their customers stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable how they've managed to maintain such a strong leadership position in the AI space.
It really is. But their success isn't just about their technology. It's also about their ability to adapt and innovate. And speaking of innovation, one area where NVIDIA has really made strides is in their networking capabilities.
Oh, that's right. They've been making some big moves there.
Yeah.
Especially since acquiring Mellanox.
Yeah. They recognized early on that as data centers scale to accommodate the demands of AI, the network infrastructure becomes absolutely critical.
So it's not just about having powerful chips. It's about how efficiently those chips can communicate with each other and with the rest of the system.
Precisely. And NVIDIA has been investing heavily in their networking business. Colette mentioned they offer both InfiniBand and Ethernet solutions.
So they're covering both bases.
Yes, but what's particularly interesting is how they've tailored their Ethernet offerings specifically for the demands of AI.
Okay.
They've taken some of the best features of InfiniBand and incorporated them into their Ethernet solutions to create a network infrastructure that can handle the massive data flows and low latency requirements of AI workloads.
So they're not just relying on existing networking standards. They're actively pushing the boundaries to create solutions optimized for AI.
Exactly. It's a testament to their commitment to innovation and their deep understanding of the specific challenges of AI infrastructure.
It's fascinating to see how they're approaching every aspect of the AI ecosystem, from the chips themselves to the software that runs on them and the networks that connect it all together.
It is. And their success in networking further reinforces their position as a leading provider of end-to-end AI solutions. This becomes especially important as we see the rise of edge computing and AI applications moving beyond the traditional data center.
You've touched on an important point there. The world of AI is expanding beyond the confines of the data center.
And Colette didn't shy away from addressing NVIDIA's role in that expansion.
Oh, that's right. She talked about edge computing, didn't she?
She did, and what's interesting is how they're leveraging their existing strengths to address the unique demands of edge AI.
Mm-hmm.
Think about their work in autonomous vehicles, for instance.
Sure.
They're developing software that will be hitting the market soon, using their expertise in data center training to create safer, more efficient self-driving systems.
That's a pretty high-stakes application for edge AI.
It is.
What about other areas?
Well, they're also doing some really innovative work in robotics.
Okay.
They're essentially taking what they've learned about training AI models in data centers
Mm-hmm.
and applying it to robots,
Yeah.
making them smarter, more adaptable, and more responsive to real-world situations.
So they're not just shrinking down their data center technology, they're adapting it to the specific needs of the edge.
That's right. They recognize that edge computing requires a different set of solutions,
Mhm.
and they're using their expertise in hardware, software, and networking to create those tailored solutions.
And what about Omniverse? Where does that fit into their edge strategy?
Omniverse. That's a fascinating platform, and it has huge potential for edge applications, particularly in areas like robotics and manufacturing.
I vaguely remember hearing about it. Could you give us a quick refresher?
Think of it as a platform for building and running metaverse applications,
No.
specifically for industrial use cases.
Okay.
It's a way to create virtual versions of real-world environments and processes, kind of like a digital twin for factories or other physical spaces.
You could test out AI algorithms for robots in a virtual factory before deploying them in the real world?
Exactly. It's a safe and efficient way to train and refine edge AI applications. And this ties back to NVIDIA's overall strategy of providing a comprehensive set of tools and platforms that support the entire AI lifecycle, from initial development to deployment and operation, whether in the cloud, the data center, or at the edge.
Yeah, it's really impressive how they're thinking about the big picture and making strategic moves to stay ahead of the curve.
They're not just reacting to the latest trends, they're anticipating what's coming next.
This has been an incredibly insightful look into NVIDIA's world.
It really has. We've covered a lot of ground, but it all leads to a crucial question. What does this mean for businesses and individuals who are navigating the increasingly complex world of AI?
That's a great question. Where do we even begin to unpack all of this?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's essential to recognize that AI is not just a technology. It's a fundamental shift in how we approach problem solving and decision making.
It's about changing our mindset
Yeah.
and embracing new ways of thinking.
Exactly. And as AI becomes more pervasive, it's crucial to understand the key trends shaping its development, such as the shift towards more efficient inference, the growing importance of networking, and the rise of edge computing.
Those are definitely all important areas to keep an eye on, but it can feel a bit overwhelming trying to keep up with all the changes happening in AI.
It can, but by understanding the key trends and developing a strategic approach, we can harness the power of AI to create a more innovative and efficient future, whether in our businesses or in our personal lives.
That's a hopeful message. And speaking of the future, it seems like there's still so much to explore when it comes to AI. It's almost like we're just scratching the surface.
And that's what makes this field so exciting. It's constantly evolving, and new possibilities are emerging all the time.
And with NVIDIA at the forefront, it seems like we're in for a wild ride.
Indeed. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. This pause will allow us to absorb all this information and consider its implications more fully.
I like that. A moment to catch our breath before we dive into the next stage of our exploration. Okay, ready to continue our exploration of NVIDIA and the future of AI.
Let's do it.
Where do we go from here?
Let's circle back to that sovereign AI concept.
Oh yes, sovereign AI.
Remember how we were talking about how countries are increasingly investing in their own AI infrastructure and capabilities?
Right, like they want to have control of their own AI destiny instead of relying on other countries.
Exactly. And this trend brings up some really interesting questions about how the global AI landscape will actually evolve.
Yeah, will we see more collaboration or more competition between these different national AI ecosystems?
That's the million-dollar question. It's kind of too early to say for sure which way things will go,
Right.
but the stakes are high.
Yeah, because AI has the potential to impact everything, from a country's economic competitiveness to its national security.
Absolutely. And that's why we're seeing governments all over the world pouring resources into AI research, development, and infrastructure. Nobody wants to be left behind.
It's almost like a new arms race, but instead of stockpiling weapons, they're competing to build the most advanced AI.
It's a provocative analogy, but I think there's some truth to it.
Right.
Countries recognize that AI is a total game changer. They want to be at the forefront of this technological revolution.
So where does NVIDIA fit into all this? They're a US-based company, but they're a global leader in AI tech. That's got to be tricky.
You hit the nail on the head. It's a very delicate balancing act for them. On one hand, they're benefiting from the increased demand for their products, right? Driven by this whole global rise of sovereign AI.
Right.
Countries need their chips and platforms to build out their own AI capabilities.
So they're winning in the short term, but what about the long term?
That's where things get a little bit more complicated. They also have to navigate these geopolitical complexities of this new world.
You mean like trade restrictions? Or concerns about sharing sensitive technology?
Exactly. As AI becomes more strategically important, governments are likely to get more involved in regulating, and controlling access to this technology. So NVIDIA needs to maintain that global leadership while also respecting the national interests of all its customers.
So it's a tightrope walk. Got to play their cards right to keep everyone happy.
And that's where their strategic approach and their focus on building these strong partnerships becomes essential. They need to be agile and adaptable to thrive in this constantly evolving landscape.
It sounds like the future of AI is going to be shaped by this fascinating mix of technological innovation, economic forces, and just global politics in general.
It's a dynamic and ever-changing field, that's for sure. And I think we can probably expect to see even more surprises and twists in the years to come.
Well, if there's one thing we can be certain of, it's that NVIDIA is going to be right in the thick of it, leading the charge into this AI-powered future.
I totally agree. Their journey so far is a testament to what's possible when you combine cutting-edge tech with a deep understanding of the market and a real knack for adapting to new challenges. They're not just along for the ride, they're actively shaping the future of AI as we know it.
It's been an incredible deep dive into NVIDIA's world. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
My biggest takeaway: AI isn't some far-off concept anymore. It's here, it's happening now, and it's transforming the world around us at an incredible pace. Companies like NVIDIA are at the forefront of this revolution, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds. Buckle up, because the future of AI is going to be a wild ride.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I have a feeling we'll be revisiting this topic many times in the future as the AI landscape keeps evolving.
Definitely. There's always something new and exciting happening in the world of AI.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into NVIDIA and the world of AI.
The pleasure was all mine. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Quarterly Call. For more episodes, please remember to rate and follow our show. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.